there's been a theme around comfort zones that has been coming up for me this week. We were actually talking about in my inner roadmap program this week about comfort zones. There's something called the comfort zone bullseye, and I learned this years ago in some of my training in wilderness therapy, actually. So if you think about a bullseye that has like 3 rings, in the center, that is our comfort zone. Then 1 ring outside of that is the learning zone. And then the 3rd ring outside of that is the panic zone. So when we're thinking about just like creating change in our lives, I mean, even just living in general, this is a great, I like to keep this comfort zone bullseye in my mind. So just because the comfort zone uses the word comfort doesn't always mean that's a great place for us to be. It can create, even though it may feel comfortable on some level in our nervous system because of habit or familiarity, there still might be some really crappy things happening in that place. Okay, so I just want to preface that. In order for us to learn, grow, move forward, into becoming or changing, being, our next self, our best self, our authentic self, whatever we want to call that, we have to expand that comfort zone and we have to move into the learning zone. So the learning zone isn't all roses and tulips either, right? It can be exciting to learn new things, right? And it can feel motivating and to have just new perceptions. So that's a wonderful aspect of the learning zone. And it can also feel really uncomfortable, right? It's different. So the nervous system can get fired up a little bit in a sense of being like, I'm not so sure. There might be self-doubt, like questioning, like, well, what if? I don't know about this. And it takes effort too, like being in that zone and building a new habit, letting go of something that we've been doing and learning something new. It takes effort. And sometimes that effort is like, I know for me, it can be like, there can be so much resistance in that. So that there's a whole picture there in the learning zone that doesn't always feel good, right? And I think we can get stuck in our minds that if something doesn't feel good, then it must not be the right thing to do. I think this happens from that term, like being in the flow state. People are like, oh, I'm trying to like be, when things flow, like it's going to feel great and be good. And that's not always true. Things might flow, but there still might be like hard things happening. Okay. Then we move into the panic zone. And that's simply when our comfort zone's been stretched too big, too quickly, maybe too forcefully, and it's like a system overload, kind of that emergency response system, mayday, mayday. That's when we are fully in the fight, flight, or freeze zone. And when we're in the panic zone, we're not learning there. Okay, we can't. Our system is trying to survive, and so at that point, we're not learning. And so the best thing we can do, you can recognize when you're there, is do whatever you can to come back actually to that comfort zone. Like let's be kind to ourselves. Let's come back to that comfort zone. Just give ourselves, whatever ends up feeling just like a warm hug. So this is a dance. There's not like a perfect like right or wrong in this, but it's a nice framework to check in with yourself and be like, where am I at? Because when we're feeling stuck, a lot of times it's because we're holding on to something in that learning, that comfort zone. It can, and most likely it tends to be more of like a belief system or wanting to keep something a certain way. This is for all of us, all human beings, and I would go beyond human beings. Like for a being to make a change, it's going to have to like be uncomfortable, almost like more uncomfortable than the discomfort of make the change. I don't know if that makes sense, but staying in the comfort zone has to get uncomfortable. All right. Um, for us to make change a lot of times. All right. And we can sit in the discomfort in our comfort zone for a long time. uh, we can sit there and be like, oh, I should be doing this. Oh, I know I need to be doing this. Or I want to try this. And, but I'll do that later. Like I'm comfortable. It's still not worth the effort, right? Because I know there's going to be effort in this learning zone. So I put this out in thinking about, I encourage everyone to look inward. We can't control other people, but looking inward. When has that happened? Has it, like, have you made a change and what did it take to get there? Where was there some delayed reactions because of attachment in the comfort zone? How might yoga be able to help this? So I wanted to bring in two concepts from Raja Yoga, the yamas, and they're two yamas, and they're part of the kind of ethical practices, but really, I kind of want to go beyond just that aspect of it. To me, the yamas and niyamas are guidelines to live a more spiritually inner focused life. How to use this life we've been given to uplift ourselves. Okay, so these are two principles and practices that we can bring into daily life that can help us guide us in learning, okay, and moving from our comfort zones. And almost like having like, okay, I've got a little bit of a framework here of what I'm going to focus on. It can be really helpful. So it can be like, okay, Twyla, like, all right, I'm in my comfort zone in this area, like how, and I know I wanted to move forward from it because I'm feeling stuff. Well, how the heck do I do this? So I just want to throwing out these two concepts. So one is ahimsa and one is satya. So those are Sanskrit terms. Ahimsa means non-harm or non-violence. And satya is truthfulness. And I bring them both up because they go hand in hand. The two of them together are what makes them powerful. Separately, they're both amazing, and our mind can get really slippery with both of them. They can actually cause us to fall back into some old patterns, maybe. But the two of them together can really help us out. So just throwing those two things out. Having an intention, you're trying to make a change, you're feeling stuck somewhere. For me, thinking about yoga for the mind and emotions. So where might you feel emotionally stuck? Let me get a little more specific. Let's think about with emotions. So maybe there's an emotional reaction that you're struggling with, that you're like, you don't like anymore, you're tired of it. You've been trying maybe to even work on it for a long time, but it's happening. So ahimsa and satya, and this is what traditional yoga asks us to do, is use our experiences and then turn inward and reflect on them. Use those experiences for ourselves. Instead of trying to fix this out here, okay, this is happening, let me turn inward with this. Okay? So, with that reaction, that pattern, where with what you are doing with it. The emotional reactions, the emotions, the thoughts behind that, beliefs behind that reaction. What aspects of that are harmful to you? Maybe harmful to you as well. It may ripple out, harmful to people around you, rippling out into your life. But I want you to come back to that little focal point, which is where it's happening, which is here, right? Inside us, inside you. What aspects of it are harmful? You take time, you can break this down, journal. What are you desiring instead? What might be opposite of that? Whatever is harmful. And then what's one action that you can practice maybe over the next week or month or so to experiment and try it out and to do something really differently and see what happens with that. Okay, so those three things. Looking at that situation, what is harmful about it? Where is that harm happening? Where do you want to go instead? What do you want to have happen instead? Where are you wanting to, if it could happen differently, what would that look like? And then what is an action step that can help start to move you towards that, right? And kind of practicing that, see what happens. Put it into action. You can write these things and think about them, but frankly, like, thoughts get lost. I mean, I think brilliant things all the time, and I don't do anything about them, and then they're gone, and I can't ever think about them again. So are they really that brilliant, right? When we start to manifest things and put things into action, that's when we become great meaning, right? So by you just doing this, the truthfulness aspect of it, is I want being honest with yourself. Okay, being truthful. And how do you know if you're truthful and honest? You know, it will hit you. There will be you will feel it. If you're just keeping it surface level or whatnot, there's excuses, if you're blaming things, if you're, continue to focus outside of yourself, it's easy to talk about it. But the truth of what really needs to happen and what's really going on, you will feel that. Okay? So practicing those two things, ahimsa and satya. And see how that goes. I'd love to hear about it. If you have any questions, or if you want to know even more about these things, and how yoga, concepts in yoga beyond just asanas, yoga as a tool for mental transformation. Let me know, at any point. Feel free to DM me or shoot a comment out. And you can also go to my website, samyayogahealing.com, and get a hold of me there too. I love having conversations and sharing about these because I think it's very important. Okay, for us to create the world that we want, we have to start with ourselves. Okay, we can't have an idea of how the world should be and then want the world to be that way without us doing the work.